Welcome to RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play a little bit of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I am Sam Allman.
I'm David Bernard Helk.
And I'm other Sam, the game professor.
And today we'll be discussing the portion of Final Fantasy VII where Cloud isn't playable. As a reminder, we sell out and play the most popular games of all time so that people get eyes on our polls to play our next game. And our next game will be either Skies of Arcadia or Paper Mario, Bernard's Auto by RPGs. Currently, Skies of Arcadia is holding on to its unanimous lead. So you Paper Mario fans really need to get angry and get in the comments and have a come from behind victory. If you want to do that, you can head on over to www.rpgbook.club and vote on our next game. While everyone's out doing that, how was you guys this week?
I went to work and I did work and then I came home and then I was tired.
I restarted Trails in the Sky SC because it's been a long time since I started and I didn't get far. It's very good.
Very good.
I also played Resident Evil 4 for the first time, or finished Resident Evil 4 for the first time. I never got far. Awkward to get used to the control scheme nowadays, but still pretty good game.
I love Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, the ending was anticlimactic, but it was pretty good overall. Also the new mini patch for Final Fantasy XIV came out, which meant more Hildebrand, and it was very satisfying and made me happy. So
good.
I don't know if either of you even know what that means, but
I choose not to.
Isn't he the funny man that you made a video about?
Yes.
I have had a rough ass week.
Oh no.
So things don't stop from keep happening constantly for the rest of your life. And basically since December, I've had at least one day a week I've had to miss of work for something or another. Like when Summer went to the hospital, or I had dental work, or the kids had dental work, or doctor's appointments, or whatever that had to happen. And throughout all of this, around January 12th, my car broke down, and it artificially broke down. If this was an older, crappier car, it would just keep driving, but it's a new car that wants me to be quote unquote safe or whatever and not drive on cars that could quote unquote explode at any second. So the computer inside won't let me shift out of third gear, so I can't go higher than like 35 miles an hour. And I've just been driving around on that because Madison is a very walkable city, and therefore it is a very drive under 35 miles an hourable city. And I finally got my tax return in and went to go get my car fixed, and they wanted about 3 times what I had set aside for this thing that I thought was going to be a pretty quick and easy fix, and apparently is not. I was expecting like 1 or 2 like check engine light codes, and there were 36. So yeah, that sucked a lot. So I couldn't get my car fixed, so I had to go get that back this week, and that really sucked. So then Scarlett had a doctor's appointment yesterday that, because she had the appointment yesterday, I had to cancel my birthday PTO to be able to go and do her appointment. And there wasn't any bad news or anything, so that was at least good, but it still was annoying to go and get that done. And that's a solo parent, solo kid extravaganza, which sometimes can be awesome and sometimes can be horrible. And it was right down the middle in between those two. And I love how I said it's a binary choice, but this one was a third option that was halfway in between the 2 binary choices, but whatever. And then today got like a foot of snow, and I had to get Summer to her CT scan at 8 o'clock. So I had to wake up early and take the car out of a foot of snow. And then when I got home from all of that, every person I invited to my birthday party that I'm not currently having sex with canceled. So, yeah. I was hoping to play Twilight Imperium for my birthday. It's a really big, really complicated, really long board game. I don't have enough freaks that are friends, so I usually only can manage to play it once a year. I moved away from Austin where all of my freak friends are, so I haven't played it in like 3 years. And and I had gotten like 8 people together, and then a couple couldn't make it. So I was like, okay, well, a 6-player game is actually better than an 8-player game for a couple of different rules. So this will be awesome and fine. And then that 6 has now whittled down to 3, and I'm one of those 3. And it just sucks. Shit sucks, but
yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
It is what it is. I'm excited to talk about Final Fantasy VII, though. If there's one thing I did this week, it was Final Fantasy VII.
Nice.
I played this portion, and I wanted more, so I started playing Intergrade with Yuffie, and she's fantastic. And it's hard. Intergrade is way harder than the base game is. It definitely is meant to be played at the end of it and not checks notes 3 years after I beat the game and haven't touched it since. So, like the very first, like, not even boss battle, it's just a cutscene surrounding normal mobs with the wolves at the very beginning of Yuffie's chunk. Kicked my ass. It took me like 10 tries to beat it.
Oh boy.
But yeah, I am also just really bad at video games though. But yeah. Let's talk about whatever the fuck Cloud is going through. I'm sure.
God, who even knows?
I'm sure he can't top my little bit of sadness. Let's see what other mental issues he can add to the pile. And we'll listen to a tiny bit of music before we do that. Bernard, did we go shoot the big gun?
Yes. Well, Rufus shoots the gun. And we don't like him.
Yeah, Rufus sucks.
He does.
But before Rufus shoots the big gun, Tifa wakes up in some sort of weird examination room. Barrett is also there. He tells Tifa that she was out for 7 days, and they don't know what happened to Cloud. He says that the northern crater has been surrounded by a barrier of light, which is protecting Sephiroth. And there's these giant weapons on a rampage, destroying shit all over the place. You might think later, when we get to explore the world map again, we'd encounter things they destroyed. You'd be wrong. They're destroying off-screen stuff. Rufus has mobilized Shinra against the weapons. Tifa asks, what about Meteor? Barrett presses a button by the window, and the shutters open. Outside, Meteor hangs in the sky, slowly descending. This shot owns. Rufus enters the weird examination room. He says he expected Cloud to come and try to save them. Turns out Rufus is going to have Barrett and Tifa executed for causing this situation, which they did not do. Guards lead them to a room with Scarlet and some press people. She says their executions will be broadcast for the world to see. One conspicuously large reporter asks why they're having a public execution in this day and age. Scarlet says that they need to rally the public against an enemy to contain the chaos Meteor is causing. Scarlet says they'll execute Tifa first. Scarlet and a guard escort Tifa into a gas chamber. She promises Tifa a slow, painful death and calls her a stuck-up bitch and slaps her. Scarlet apparently has some deep personal hatred for Tifa, a character she has a long and storied history with. Apparently. Anyway, as Scarlet and Tifa leave the gas chamber, the guard drops a key. An alarm sounds. A weapon is approaching. The press folks scatter, except for the large one, who knocks out Scarlet and reveals himself to be Ketchi in disguise. Barrett is like, why are you helping me? You're with Shinra. Ketchi just says he's against capital punishment. Barrett tries to open the door to the gas chamber, but it's not working.
I should clarify. He says he's against capital punishment, and also he hates Scarlet. He says also, I hate that
forgot
broad.
about that part. Scarlet's weird.
Yeah.
Elsewhere, Rufus orders that they fire all the guns at the approaching weapon. We see that we are in Junon, and we see that Junon has lots of guns. They fire at weapon, but it's not working. Back in the gas chamber is working. Barrett just can't get that dang door open. Ketchi says the chamber must be locked from somewhere else, so they need to get out of here. As they leave the room, Scarlet wakes up and locks the door behind them. Ketchi says now they need to head to the airport. Barrett is like, but Tifa. And Ketchi just says they've got to take a chance. So Barrett and Ketchi run for the airport and are accosted by a familiar-looking reporter who turns out to be Yuffie in disguise for some reason. She says they've got to hurry to the airport. They hurry to the airport where a giant airship is waiting. Barrett is like, this is a dead end. What are we doing here? Back in the gas chamber, Tifa squirms and manages to get the key and unlock her restraints. The door is still locked, however. The key was just for the restraints. Outside, Weapon shoots a laser which blasts a hole in the wall of the gas chamber. Convenient. Junon's giant gun blasts Weapon right in the face, and it dies. So yes, big gun fired.
Yay.
Tifa climbs out of the hole in the wall and eventually finds herself on the barrel of the giant gun. Scarlet shows up and states her determination to knock Tifa to her death. Tifa and Scarlet have a slap fight. It's silly. Tifa wins, and Scarlet is like, okay, I have a bunch of guards with me. I'll just have them kill you.
Alternatively, if you're me, Tifa loses, so...
How do you even lose this? You just mash circle.
Yeah, it's a weird... You have to do it at, like, the right time, or else she gets you first. Yeah, there's, like, a weird timing thing you have to do. Final Fantasy VII has a decent amount of these minigames where, like, the goal is basically that you have to do it slower than it feels like you have to, or it's gonna mess up. So she slapped me more than I slapped her, and it didn't work.
I just mashed the button, and
Same.
I won.
Yeah, boy. Okay, well. Cool.
Maybe you should get good at bespoke mini games dozens of hours into an RPG.
Yeah, guess so.
So a voice calls to Tifa to run to the end of the cannon. The airship flies up. Fantastic music plays. Barrett waves to Tifa from the deck and tosses a rope. She jumps, grabs the rope, and climbs aboard. Ketchi says the airship Highwind is theirs now. Neat. This actually is something that happens later, but if you talk to some of the crew later, you find out that basically Sid, with his rough and tumble charisma, convinced them to mutiny and be part of the Planet Gang instead of narking for Shinra.
Which wasn't too hard because apparently Heidegger like abuses them whenever he's upset, which isn't surprising. We see him do that a lot with Shinra.
And Sid famously does not abuse people, so
yeah,
easy choice.
I think maybe this is supposed to be character development. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, the party convenes on the bridge, but Tifa is still depressed about Cloud. She says she doesn't know what to do. Barrett says they'll figure it out together. Remember, there's no getting off this train they're on. This attempt to get Tifa to shape up does not work. She says she needs to see Cloud again. He's like her only motivation at this point. So Nanaki says that when the ground collapsed within the northern crater, he might have fallen deep enough to enter the Lifestream. And Nanaki says he's heard stories of a place where the Lifestream breaches the surface, but that's all he's got. So at this point, you've just got to explore until you figure out where this place is, or just stumble upon it, or look it up on the internet. But eventually the gang arrives in a tiny town called Mediel on a remote island. And it turns out Cloud washed up there and is now convalescing in the town's clinic. He sits in a wheelchair, unable to do anything other than moan. The doctor says it's a severe case of Mako poisoning, and it's unlikely Cloud has any idea where or who he is. Tifa is fucked up by this situation. She decides to stay by Cloud's side and care for him while the party does their planet saving. Aboard the Highwind, the gang's like, well, what the fuck are we gonna do now? Ketshi says Shinra is up to something, and the gang can eavesdrop with his robot spy body or something. In Shinra Tower, Rufus meets with the Shinra crew. Scarlet explains that they're in the process of gathering the huge materia, which is a special kind of materia which is produced in Mako reactors. They're going to ram these powerful materia into Meteor to destroy it. They've already collected the huge materia from Nibelheim, and now only the ones in Corel and Fort Condor remain. Nanaki delivers some lines which are bizarre, even in the Be a Cause script, about how, like, if they gather the huge materia, then they can do something cool with their regular materia or something. But the point is, the gang is going to get the huge materia before Shinra. You might think that Shinra's stated goal is to destroy Meteor and kill Sephiroth, and that's the same thing the party wants to do. But that doesn't mean we're going to work with them because they're bad, and we don't like them.
Yeah, I think the implication is that this isn't gonna work, or like that there's reason for them to think it won't. I don't know. It is a little weird.
Mm-hmm. But the party doesn't exactly have a better plan. They just don't like Shinra, which is fair. Anyway, Barrett says they need a leader, but he doesn't feel qualified to lead. Sid is named acting party leader against his will. The gang collects the huge materia at Corel and Fort Condor, and I'm not going to go into the details. If y'all liked any of that, y'all can talk about it in memorable moments.
I didn't.
Okay.
Sorry, I spaced out for a second. Talk about what memorable moments?
Gathering the huge materia at Corel and Fort Condor.
Oh, I do have a memorable thing about it. So yeah, I'll talk about it then.
All right. So after doing that, the gang decides to go and check on Cloud and Tifa. So they head back to Mediel. Cloud's condition has not improved, and Tifa is still fucked up. The ground starts shaking, and Cloud says, "They're coming." Sid and party rush out of the clinic and somehow intuit that the earthquake is the Lifestream threatening to erupt from below the planet's surface. And also, a weapon is approaching. It attacks the party. It's a survive for a set number of turns fight, and it's a pretty tough one. Eventually, Weapon gets bored and leaves. The ground starts shaking even more violently, and Sid orders the gang to retreat, saying there's no time to go back for Cloud and Tifa. Tifa pushes Cloud's wheelchair out of the clinic and tries to escape, but the ground starts crumbling. The entire town collapses, and Cloud and Tifa are dumped into the Lifestream. Now shit's going to start getting weird.
Mm-hmm.
Tifa finds herself in a strange zone with several clouds. She realizes she must be inside his mind or memories or something. She states her determination to help Cloud get the real him back. Through a series of abstract flashbacks, we receive the following revelations. 1. Tifa remembers Sephiroth and Shadow the Hedgehog coming to Nibelheim 5 years ago, along with 2 faceless scrubs. Tifa had waited for Cloud, but he never showed up. 2. Sephiroth had said that Cloud had fabricated his memories based on Tifa's stories, but Tifa says Cloud was the first one to mention the Starry Night when they met at the water tower, so she has kept believing that he's the real Cloud. 3. Cloud was a very insecure child and wanted to join Soldier not to become a famous hero, but so that Tifa would notice him. 4. Cloud and Tifa were never actually that close as kids. They didn't really hang out or anything. It just sort of seems like they felt some sort of connection to each other from afar, but never, acted on it at all. After Cloud left town, Tifa thought about him a lot and sort of retroactively got a feeling that they had been close. 5. There's this whole thing where Tifa's mom died, then Cloud followed Tifa to Mount Nebel, and they both fell off a cliff, and Tifa was in a coma for a week, and Cloud was really angry with himself for letting it happen and thought Tifa blamed him. It's, not important, but it adds to his motivation, so I guess I should mention it. 6. Cloud remembers that Shadow the Hedgehog's name is Zack. It was Zack who came to Nibelheim with Sephiroth. 7. Cloud was actually there in Nibelheim 5 years ago. He was one of the scrubs, the one who got motion sick on the ride there. He was so embarrassed by the fact that he never became a proper soldier that he wore his helmet the whole time to hide his face. 8. The big one. Here's what happened in the Nibelheim Mako reactor. When Sephiroth sliced Tifa and entered the Genova chamber, Zack chased after him, but got owned. Cloud ran in, took Zack's Buster Sword, and got a sneak attack off on Sephiroth. Cloud then left the Genova chamber to care for Tifa. A gravely wounded Sephiroth limped out, carrying a blob of polygons, which I guess is Genova's head? Cloud pursued, but Sephiroth stabbed the fuck out of him. Through great force of anime will, Cloud grabbed the blade and flung Sephiroth into the depths of the reactor. Cloud defeated Sephiroth, and he kept his promise to help Tifa if she was in trouble. Cloud's memories and sense of self are restored. The rest of the gang find Cloud and Tifa washed up in the ruins of Mideel. Cloud is unconscious, but Barrett says he's going to be okay. Tifa says she found the real Cloud while she was in the Lifestream. Well, it wasn't her that found him. He did it himself. Barrett calls Tifa, quote, one hell of a woman, unquote, which is great. In the operations room of the Highwind, Cloud addresses the Planet Gang. He apologizes for all the trouble he's caused. He says he was never in Soldier, and his memories were a fantasy he created to deal with his shame. Cloud says that physically he's similar to someone who would be in Soldier. The process Hojo used to create the Sephiroth copies is the same as the one used on soldiers. Candidates aren't just irradiated with Mako, they're actually injected with Genova cells. Cloud was too weak-willed and lost himself after going through the process. Quote, a man born from Genova's cells, Sephiroth's will, and his own weaknesses. That's the Cloud that you all knew, the master of my own illusionary world. But Cloud says he doesn't need delusions anymore. He's going to be the real Cloud. He says he's the reason Meteor is falling towards them, so if there's anything he can do to help, he'll do it. It's like Barrett always says. And then everyone says together, there's no, there ain't no, okay, let's try it. 3, 2, 1. There ain't no getting off of this train we're on. Okay, that went poorly, but it's a great scene. And
internet lag is so hard.
It is.
It complicates
but
it.
The airship music comes in right as they say it, and it's so good.
It's so good.
Yeah, it is.
The airship music is so good.
It's very good, yeah.
So, yeah, I skipped over a lot this week because I was not about to detail the exact nature of the abstract flashbacks. I had enough of that shit when we covered .hack GU.
Yeah, you've already reached your anime bullshit quota for the rest of the podcast.
Yes.
So yeah, this is a really big and important chapter. So we'll probably have tons to talk about in our memorable moments right after this.
Okay, so I have a small one that I don't want to forget, so can I go first?
Yes.
Okay, so this actually technically takes place right after the end of this week, but on the ship that we were on way back early in the game, and on this airship, and just whenever we're on a vehicle, Yuffie has been motion sick and miserable. And after the final scene, after you leave the operations room, you can see her being miserable, and you can go up and talk to her as Cloud, and Cloud, like, is really nice and empathizes with her and is like, yeah, I get motion sick too. Here's how I deal with it. And it's a really nice little scene where it shows how he doesn't need to try to be the coolest person in the world anymore. I like it.
Yeah, I actually think there's a pretty tangible change in Cloud from this point on. Like, you can see it pretty much immediately. He comes across as a bit less detached, a bit more sincere, and like one of the first things he does is take responsibility, basically, which is like definitely isn't how old Cloud would have done, right? Just like, hey guys, sorry, I messed up. Here's everything that happened. I'm gonna do my best. You know, like it feels like a marked change in his personality because you know he's actually being himself now, or at least trying to construct that part of himself.
Also, in the Be a Cause script, which is what I took my notes with, Cloud talks a lot about his weaknesses and how he all this trouble was caused because he was weak-willed and everything. And you can go up and talk to the guy who is a save point on the Highwind, and he'll be like, wow, your story really moved me because I was also standing here this whole time. Because I'm sort of weak myself, and he talks about that. But it's funny in the original translation because when I was playing the original translation this time, I don't think Cloud really hammered home the word weak in his monologue, but when you walk up to the guy, he's like, wow, I'm weak too. So it just seems like he's calling Cloud a weak ass little bitch baby.
That's amazing.
It's funny.
It's like, yeah, I'm really struggling with things, but thank you for sticking by with me. Yeah, I fucking suck too, Cloud.
I know what it's like to be weak.
So, want to hear my Final Fantasy VII hot take?
Yes.
No. Yes, do, please.
I think the person born as Cloud Strife should have died a long time ago, and the person that we play as in the game should have actually been as a failed Sephiroth clone that got his memories from Tifa, but that doesn't matter because memories are what make you a real person, and he continues fighting and finds a sense of self anyways. This more complicated version to have that cake and eat it too, I think it is good because it's hard to understand, and once you understand it, you feel like a smart person for figuring it out, but it's not actually good or better. And I am fully prepared for Sam to correct me on all of this and prove to me that it is actually good. But I was expecting to have that idea changed more now that I'm playing it for the second time and can pay attention to more things. And I do like it more, but I still think it is extra complicated so they could have a crazy ass anime fourth wall Nomura ass sequence in the middle of this game.
Cool take.
I mean, not that
nice take.
Yeah, I wouldn't say you're wrong. I guess that just strikes me as essentially accomplishing the same thing, I guess. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, either way, it was still what we're dealing with is a Cloud who isn't who he thought he was. And
but no, he is He is who he thought he was.
No, but he's not who he thought he was, because he thought he was Soldier. He thought he was Zach.
Yeah, he thought he was Zach. He also thought he was Cloud. Turns out that. So the thing that is narratively unsatisfying for me is we get the big revelation of like, oh, Cloud, you're not the Cloud that you thought you've been this whole time, and then we go through all of this complicated things to figure out what that means, but then at the end of it is like, oh no, but actually you are Cloud. You're not Zach. You are Cloud, and there's two different people, but it's the revelation followed by immediately double reversing on the thing. It's complicated, and I don't think it needed to be complicated to be good.
Well, that's fair, I guess. But I do think that the interplay between Cloud and Zach is kind of important. And yeah, I'm not sure how that would survive in that setup.
Yeah, I think it would be different, but it's the part that just feels weird is but I actually truly am this actual person, Cloud, on the other side. And the monologue that I had somehow missed last time of Tifa, when she was talking about how like her friend is fucked up and she knew something was fucked up, and I had somehow like misinterpreted that the first time I played it. It did make the original Cloud part feel a little better, but I still think this is just complicated and could have just been, turns out Cloud is a clone and not a real boy, and that's okay because he made friends. And like, right, the Zach of it all is like, he could be a failed clone of Sephiroth that has Zach's memories, but then he meets Tifa, and Tifa's like, oh my god, are you this boy Cloud from me growing up? And he's like, sure, I guess, because I have holes in my memory because Hojo only wanted me to have Sephiroth related memories, and so I don't have a childhood, and I'm piecing it in with the stuff from you, etc. It could still work without it having to be this. We've seen hundreds of Sephiroth clones, and Cloud is a special third thing that is a person who was tried to be turned into a Sephiroth clone, instead of just being a clone.
Yeah, I can certainly see that working. I guess I just also think that as it is, is good and accomplishes what it needs to.
Yeah.
Also, I do have to say, I really love the detail that Hojo just straight up fucking lied to Cloud earlier. Mm-hmm. Hojo was just like, you're just a Sephiroth, like, intentionally to mess with him. Mm-hmm. Like, Hojo is such a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. And I just really love when, like, there's a confusing element of it that, like, but how does this fit in? And the reason it fits in is because Hojo's a dick and he lied.
Yeah. I'd skipped over saying this earlier. The main reason that I think this one is unsatisfying is it boils down to Cloud forgot he wasn't Zach. And that is silly. Versus if he was a clone with no memories and had just been absorbing all the things around him, is less silly than, oh yeah, I totally forgot. I'm not a space alien. I'm not Zach. I'm not Genova. I'm actually Cloud. I just forgot.
Okay, he forgot because he was subjected to the weird soldier experiments and everything, and was too weak-willed and lost his identity.
And more thematically important too, I think that what this accomplishes is that it's not just that, it's also that, like, subconsciously Cloud was always disappointed in himself for being, a regular schmuck working for Shinra instead of making Soldier. So, like, when he had his mind messed with so much and had to reconstruct things, it makes perfect sense that his insecurity in himself, his lack of pride in his identity, would basically make it the weaker option, so that he kind of naturally tried to make himself make his life fit with the cooler person that he knew instead of the disappointment that he was to himself. So that really feels to me like it fits in with this concept of like having a strong concept of who you are and your own identity that I think is pretty central to the game.
Yeah, I can see that. And the way you phrased it a second ago made it really click on the only things we know of Cloud as a person is he is a 16-year-old boy who saw an 18-year-old boy and thought that the 18-year-old boy was the coolest motherfucker on the face of the planet and has been trying to be cool ever since. And so in his time of most torn apart and subjected to the stupidness, he's like, oh, I'm not the dweeb in this memory. I must be the cool guy because I want to be cool no matter what.
Now he's 21 and he understands he was never cool, and that's all right.
He really wasn't. This is the thing. Like, I know that we talked early on about how Cloud is clearly pretending to be cool, and he's actually a giant dork. And I do just love that for this when it comes to this twist and stuff is that, yeah, like it was literally just him pretending to be cool the entire time because he's trying to be someone that he's not. And he's actually just a dweeb. He's great. I love him.
Yeah, I think my main hangups is this twist takes some of the drama away from the scene earlier where Sephiroth was like revealing this stuff the first time, like, oh hey, look, you're not real, you're just a clone of Zack, and it kind of just makes it all complicated in a way, and it just, I don't know. It's not like I said, it's not bad, and playing it this time I like it a lot more than when I played it the first time. I had a much more extremely spicy take that this game wasn't actually good. People just understood it and thought it made them smart, and that was the only reason people liked this game. But that is definitely not how I feel 5 years later.
I think especially because I have seen a lot of people definitely not understand this game.
Yeah.
I this week and the previous week I have been impressed by this game because it's not like it's extremely obtuse or anything, but I feel like it doesn't spell things out as much as I would expect.
Yeah.
Like I feel like, I don't know, if this game were made in like the aughts or the teens, things would be laid out a lot more clearly and repeatedly explained, but they sort of just breeze through it, and the characters gain an understanding of what's going on and or what they think is going on, and you are along for the ride.
Yeah, I think this is very much a story where you can follow it. Just first time through paying casual attention, you can follow it fine, but a lot of the details on the edges are going to be kind of fuzzy. And then, if you want to pay a little more attention, then you can, or do a second playthrough or whatever, then you can, and it's mostly going to fit together pretty well. But it does leave a number of things relatively unexplained for sure, or at least not explicitly spelled out. But also, frankly, this scene in particular is one where the details, the exposition, it matters, but I don't think it as much as the feelings. This is about Cloud finding himself more than us getting answers.
Yeah.
And I feel like that comes through in it too.
Yeah. So I think that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is not going to get this far. It's going to end shortly after Aerith dies, maybe get to the Northern Crater. So Final Fantasy VII Restart is going to be start with this big revelation to then lead us towards the end of the game. And I bet it's going to be fucking awesome because they made 3-line Jesse into the best character in the Final Fantasy VII Chronicle or whatever, the compendium, whatever they called it. And
compilation of Final Fantasy VII.
Yes, compilation of Final Fantasy VII. So I know that this scene that's already fantastic is going to be so good because all of the artistic and aesthetic choices that they made, the only one I didn't like was they made Genova's blood into purple goop so that they could sell the game in more territories, and therefore it didn't look like the horror scene that Shinra Tower should have looked at.
Yeah, I was so disappointed that remake didn't have blood, because the original has blood and it's freaky.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't have an M-rated Final Fantasy game. That would be ridiculous.
Yeah, can't do that. You can't show a child covered in blood in a trailer for your M-rated Final Fantasy game. That's definitely not going to happen.
That's impossible.
That has already happened. Type 0 got an M rating.
Type 0 was M-rated?
Yeah.
Is it?
Huh.
I'm pretty sure of that.
I'm going to check. My copy's right here.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Here is the box art with an M17 plus on it.
As far as I can tell, it's pretty much just because the Chocobo dies at the beginning, and that's sad.
No!
But, yeah. I guess I never finished it. I need to at some point. But I guess there could be other reasons, but I'm assuming it's just because, like, Chocobo death is an automatic M, right? Like, it's gotta be.
Let's see.
Looks like there's blood, drug reference, suggestive themes, violence.
That sounds like a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah, other than that, I really liked, as much as I didn't like it's like you were saying, the revelations are not as important as like the feelings and the aesthetics. The feelings and the aesthetics of this part are to fucking die for. Mm-hmm. They are so good. Like the really big see-through cloud that's just like fucking going crazy the whole time is so good. The like
it is.
Oh hey, this window right here, let's go, and then the camera moves and you go through the window and now you're in Nibelheim, and it's so good.
Yeah, there is some bizarre like dreamlike imagery and landscaping going on in this scene. It is fantastic, visually speaking.
I think in the first episode, Maddie Grace talked a lot about how they would like have a pre-rendered scene, but then like press play on it to go into an FMV, or have an FMV that goes into and then presses pause and is now a pre-rendered background. They do a lot of that this week, and it's great.
Yeah, it's
real good. Shout outs to asking famed fashion artist Yoshitaka Amano to draw a big ball on fire for this game, because it paid off. The big ball on fire is real pretty.
Man, I already said this, but the scene where Barrett opens the shutters and you see Meteor, it's real cool.
It's really good, yeah. It really, like, a lot of Final Fantasy games have kind of a big, usually about halfway, but not always, like a big point where everything changes and like the goals of the story are very different. And, you know, I feel like this is one of the more dramatic ones. 6 obviously has the most dramatic ones, and I'm not going to say what it is for spoilers, but, you know, that's a lot. But this one's pretty big. Like, it's palpable. You know, meteors on the horizon all the time. Like, you really feel the difference in
the world map music changes.
Yeah, yeah, it's good stuff.
Also, shout outs to Chekhov for leaving a really big gun in this game, because it was worth it when it shut off.
It's a big gun.
I'm just impressed. I just finished. I recently finished the Advent Children remake, not Advent Children, sorry, the Crisis Core remake, and I'm impressed that they managed to fix the gun in, you know, this amount of time after Sephiroth fucking destroyed it.
I need to play Crisis Core once we're done with this.
Oh yeah, there's legit, it's not even a spoiler, there's legit just a flashback where Sephiroth is like play fighting with his friends and cuts the barrel of that into half. Like in multiple pieces, just
nice.
For fun, I guess. I don't know. Like, Shinra must have been mad about that, I expect, but
Sephiroth can get away with it.
Yeah, true. If anyone could,
what are they gonna do?
I will say, like, this scene with Tifa and Cloud in the live stream is one of my favorite Final Fantasy scenes ever. And the visuals and stuff are part of that, but honestly, the main thing that makes it work for me is Tifa. It's so...
Yeah.
She's been in like a protective mom mode this whole time. Like, oh, I'm just going to follow Cloud, make sure that he's okay, make sure that I'm keeping him safe from things. And like when people like Sephiroth and Hojo started explaining, even though they weren't being entirely truthful with him, when they started explaining and revealing things about his past, she was like, no, don't do that. Don't tell him the truth. This is her actually just embracing that he has to know the truth and gently, lovingly leading him through it. And it's so good just seeing that caring instinct expressed in a more healthy way that's more about helping Cloud come to terms with things than about keeping herself from needing to confront them. It's really beautiful seeing her just kind of gently help him move through this and understand himself. I love it a lot. It's definitely, I think, the strongest argument for Tifa and Cloud shipping, which I still ship all three of them together, but like there is a true care and love expressed here that's just really cool. I love it a lot.
And one thing that I think is cool, because I had completely erased last week's Tifa revelations that brought Tifa to the forefront to qualify her as main character for a while, where she talked about how her friend showed up broken and she's been worried about him ever since, etc., etc. I had forgotten that. So when I went and I played Final Fantasy VII remake, and she's like motherly and all of that stuff, I just was like, oh, like that's really cool of her as a character, and it like fits her as a character. And now knowing that like it was in the text and all of that, it really just like Tifa's good. Tifa's real good and always has been. And I was silly to not have, like, I honestly have no idea how I completely and totally missed that very important revelation from last week. Probably because I was playing it at work on a original pixel size corner of my monitor, so I wouldn't get caught. So I probably
that's not the best way.
It's not the best way, but it was good. So what are your memorable moments about the parts we didn't talk about?
Well, I will say I got slightly confused when I was like, oh, I have memorable moments about Huge Materia, because I was thinking of the submarine.
That's next week.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I'll complain about that fucking bullshit next week. There were a couple bits that didn't get mentioned that I really liked. One is that Tifa wiggling around and getting the key is its own mini game, and it's a weird one, but I actually really like it.
Again, I just mashed all the face buttons and hoped for the best.
Yeah, it's like you have different buttons that move different parts of Tifa, and so like the key's on the ground and you have to like push the right button in the right way that gets her foot over to it and then pulls it back. Like each button just moves her body in such specific weird ways that you need to figure out the right order and combination of them to get the key from the ground to her feet and then up to a hand. You know, like it's weird, but it's kind of neat. Like I enjoyed just using the visual cues of the animation to try and figure out what logically made sense to accomplish what I was doing. I enjoy this one, even though it's kind of strange.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. I bet it will probably have a good version of this mini game in whenever the remakes get around there. Assuming this is pretty late in the game and we know that they're changing things along the way, and they said that they're going to do the whole plot plus the new plot, but like I don't know how much they can diverge. Like they can keep diverging to then get it back to this exact mini game. But the squatting mini game was brought over and then made good. So this one is probably going to be made good.
Here's hoping.
Anything else to talk about this week? I know it's a pretty short episode, but especially for something this important, but we kind of gave this important thing a lot of breathing room because nothing else that happened this week was very important.
I do Okay. I have opinions about the slap fight.
Go for it.
I got in trouble from some people for saying this in my video. Some of the comments aren't happy with it, but I think that it's silly and maybe a little bit sexist to have a powerful Shinra executive versus an accomplished and extremely powerful martial artist and be like, they're gonna slap each other because I can't think of a reason for that slap fight to exist aside from they're women, so we're gonna have them do this instead. Like,
Yeah.
It's very odd. Tifa could straight up fucking drop kick her off of that thing, and instead they just slap each other a bit. Like, I don't know. It's weird. I saw someone in my comments actually tried being like, no, it's empowering for Tifa. It's badass. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, no. I don't know.
I sort of see it as Scarlet slaps Tifa, and Tifa's like, what? What the fuck? Who even are you? Slap you back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Personally, I think it would have been funnier if Scarlet
I actually agree.
I think it would have been funnier if Scarlet slapped Tifa and then Tifa just roundhouse kicked her.
Yeah, I hope that either that happens or a really good one-on-one boss battle happens in the remake for that.
Yeah, see, I'd be down for that too. And they seem to be showing Scarlet to be more powerful and capable so far. Because, we don't necessarily get... She could be in the original game, but she could also just be some random rich executive. Like, who knows? But they seem to be setting her up to be an actual villain this time.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. But because I would also accept a one-on-one battle. That'd be pretty cool. It'd be much cooler than a slap fight. Like, it would make sense, and I'd be here for it.
God, can you believe that we're just like 9 fucking months away from Rebirth?
God.
I don't have time for this shit. There's so many other games I need to finish before then. I hate this. And for that matter, the new expansion for 14 is probably going to come out around the same time. So, and Final Fantasy 16's coming out soon.
Yeah,
it's too much.
Let's just have 3 gigantic Final Fantasy releases in the same year.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
If it makes you feel better, maybe a meteor will hit Japan and Final Fantasy 16 will get delayed.
That would be the only reason that would happen. So maybe.
I made a tweet that was that headline where he said that, and under that it was the Fate joined typography, but I replaced join with tempt, so it was Fate tempted, and it got 3 likes on Twitter.
Hell yeah.
It deserves more than that. That's pretty great.
But trying to think of something nice and or mean to say about Fort Condor or the train, and I can't. They're both things that happen.
What I like about Fort Condor, I was like, oh God, I better look up in the walkthrough I'm kind of following because we're doing optional stuff, so I gotta follow the walkthrough to make sure we do it, which I think next week we'll be doing optional Vincent stuff, which is exciting.
Ooh, yeah, there's some good optional Vincent stuff, so that'll be good.
But anyway, I was like, oh God, I better check the walkthrough, see how to do this Fort Condor thing that I've never engaged with. But it said, don't place any people. Just let them reach the top of the mountain, then you have a boss fight. And I was like, I can do a boss fight.
And if you do that, you get better rewards because you get things from the boss fight and the reward for saving the town. So it incentivizes you to not engage with the incredibly slow. I had on 4 times fast forward on the PS5, and it still was so freaking slow.
Yep.
Don't do it. Just put your controller down, walk away for about 30 minutes, come back, watch it for another 10 or 15 minutes, and then it'll be over and just fight the boss fight.
And I guess the stuff that happens at Corel is sort of funny.
You mean how you can destroy their town a second time?
Yeah, and you can you like have a mini game because it's Final Fantasy VII, where you have to press buttons to do the levers, and you don't like have any feedback on if you're doing it right.
Yep.
Yeah, it's silly.
This game is weird.
I do like that the gold saucer is like closed down, and Dio's like, I don't know if I should be like doing business at a time like this. It just kind of feels wrong. And I'm like, man, for a game that's definitely commenting on capitalism, it sure got this part wrong. It should have been like, oh man, the world's ending, everyone. Come waste all your money. Like, we're going to run a special promotion. Get as much money as we can out of people before the world ends. Because that feels a lot more, having just gone through like a pandemic and seeing the capitalist response to that, I feel like just...
We didn't even talk about how, like, you can fucking go to Costa del Sol and talk to everyone, and they have new dialogue about Meteor. It's neat. And not just Costa del Sol. Like, you can go other places. You can go, when you're going through Junon, you can go through all sorts of places.
And I do like that when you get... Like when you start controlling Tifa as your main character, in my brain, I didn't even remember Sid as the main character for his parts, because as we just said, there's nothing to comment on for either of his set pieces. But Tifa is who you have when you just kind of go around looking at everything, and if you don't look up where you're supposed to go or see the new glowing dot on your mini map, you'd have the whole world to explore as Tifa. And I think that's what happened the first time when I played it, is I just spent a lot of time as Tifa just trying to find where I was supposed to go.
Also, you might end up doing Yuffie's whole side quest as Tifa instead of as Cloud like we did before.
I think that might help contribute to, because we were talking before recording about how you don't actually not have Cloud for all that long, and everyone seems to remember it as longer. And I hadn't thought about the fact that depending on how well you notice what you're supposed to do next, you could do a lot. Like, you could be wandering the globe and doing all sorts of stuff before getting him back. So that could possibly be part of why it's elongated in everyone's memory. I also just think, and I'm kind of amazed that I didn't think to talk about this before now, because it's kind of a big deal, Cloud's absence is really felt, like, not necessarily as a mechanical thing, because there are plenty of other characters who can do well like Cloud does in battle, but it's just kind of disorienting to play as one character for the entire game and then suddenly not have him and have someone else. Like, it really contributes to the uncanny, uncomfortable feeling of the entire scenario. And, you know, that's cool. I'm always a big fan of things like that, like, you know, it's not like you're choosing a different ending or whatever, but it's definitely a situation in which they change things in a way that makes your interactive part of this game feel off somehow and contributes to the overall feeling. I also do just kind of love that, admittedly, I'm not 100% sure how, but like, they're all like, oh, the Lifestream is, you know, it's Mako energy and it's the souls of everyone on the planet. And then we get to the Midil stuff and it's just like, anyway, here's a Lifestream pond, I get. Like, it's just gonna fall into the Lifestream. It's just a little ways under the crust, I guess. Like, the idea that these two characters could just kind of fall into the Lifestream and have a bunch of weird existential experiences and then get out of it is really weird to me. Like, not weird enough to be a problem. I feel like that would be really like, plot hole nitpicky, and that'd be stupid. But like, it is a little weird. Oh gosh, the Cinema Sins thing. No.
It's like,
to be fair, Midil is like a special place because of that.
Oh, that's fair. I'd forgotten that. Yeah, you're right.
As far as we know, these places aren't all over. Nanaki was like, I've heard there's a place like this somewhere.
Yeah. It's like, Mom, what happens when we die? Oh, our souls get returned back to the Lifestream and feed our planet. Where's the Lifestream? Over there.
We'll go on vacation to Midil next time. You can see it.
Yeah.
And we'll catch a glimpse of your grandpa's soul.
Don't dig around in the backyard too much. You'll find it.
Just when you put it that way, it's making me think of like the PS4 God of Wars, and like when you get into Elfheim or whatever, and there's just a pool where all the souls go. Like,
also sort of like Final Fantasy X, where you can just there's where the dead people go.
mm-hmm. Oh gosh,
Over
speaking
there.
of, did y'all see the thing going around recently with where someone had a video of a Yuna cosplayer playing Dance Dance Revolution, and
Yeah.
someone put Titus's like, people die and Yuna dances. When will she stop dancing over it? It's the funniest thing.
It's so good.
I laugh every time I watch it.
Now I want to replay Final Fantasy X.
I've been wanting to replay Final Fantasy X for ages, but I'm making myself wait until I'm actually going to make a video about it, which I'm going to do. I love Final Fantasy X. So, yeah.
Yeah. Are you prepared
It's a
for everyone
good
in your
game.
comments to not understand the laughing scene?
Look,
It's a good scene.
I'm going to do my best to explain that. Honestly, I'm more concerned about trying to explain the whole, like, yeah, there's a lot of, like, Christian symbolism and stuff in here, but also it's weird because Japan does Christian symbolism weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll go as far to say that the laughing scene is probably the most emotionally like moving scene in a mainstream Final Fantasy game that I've played. Like, it's so good, and yet
Oh, gosh.
nobody gets it.
Honestly, I don't know if I can agree with that, if only because even in that game, you have what I would say is a more emotionally moving scene, because the scene where Titus finds out.
Spoilers.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. I'm not going to say what it is. Just that scene destroys me. It's so good.
Our rule of spoilers on the podcast is if we've already covered the game, ideally you've listened from the beginning, although we keep our things separate. So if you casually
even if
reference
I
things,
don't-
it's fine.
This
Yeah,
podcast has covered dozens of games.
Yeah, I don't want to. I wouldn't want to spoil Final Fantasy X for people. So I'm not going to go into detail. But yeah, if you've played it, you know what I'm talking about, and that scene is extremely good.
Yeah,
But
there
But
are.
the laughing scene is good. Not to undercut the point that the laughing scene is very good.
Yeah, I said I would almost go as far as I don't say it with my whole chest, but it's up there as being like really, really emotionally moving, and everyone doesn't understand what's happening.
Honestly, that happens with a lot of Final Fantasy things. I could point out multiple things about 13 that are good and emotionally moving, but no one understands it. So
It happens with a lot of Japanese role-playing games, especially ones that
That's
came
fair.
out in the aughts,
yeah,
the
Mhm.
dark times.
Yeah,
Y'all see those X-Play clips going around? Hoo boy.
ooh yeah,
Forgot it was that bad.
yep.
Anywho, let's wrap up for the evening.
Let's.
So that'll do it for the week. If you like what you heard today and you want to help us offset the costs of running the show, you can head on over to www.rpgbook.club, where any and all donations are put back into the show to make it better, offset hosting costs, but get new games, things like that. If you donate $1 or more a month, you are one of our gadabouts, which will get you access to our book club no Kaseki episodes a month before everyone else, as well as be able to vote on the polls that decide our next game, much like the one that's live right now, covering Bernard's autobiographies, either Skies of Arcadia or Paper Mario. And if you bump up your monthly contribution to $5 a month, that's our Warrior tier, where you'll also get your name shouted out at the end of every episode. Much like this, shout outs to Floris, Kildron, Freddie Rodriguez, Bernie L. Taylor, Aaron 524, Anthony Lerma, Vim K, JFro Prime, and Doho. And if you bump your donation up to $20 or more a month, you will be our luminary, where we will not only read your name, but also a one sentence shout out of your choosing. First up is Eliza Tantavi, who for the month of March wants you to check out www.nanoreno.org, nanoreno.org. It's a visual novel game jam inspired by NaNoWriMo that where you try to make a visual novel over the course of March. We're a good halfway through the month, but still go and check it out. And even if you don't participate, check out the games that get made from it. Like after a game jam, there's like hundreds of free games for you to check out and find your new favorite, and most of them are good. So do that.
Yeah, I really wanted to do NaNoRenO this year, but I've just got a bunch of other stuff going on, so I decided not to. But
yeah. Our other luminary car is a dentist, so his shout out is not for a URL, but for your own mouth. And he asks that you brush your teeth twice a day, most importantly, the time right before you go to bed. For RPG Book Club, I've been Sam Allman.
I'm David Bernard Hauk.
And I'm Sam 2, the sequel to Sam Allman.
Toodaloo, folks. We did it. We did it.
We made content.
We did.